Hi, chat. Hi, chat. I'm here. I hope everybody has had a good week, and I hope those of you that are in the storm right now are staying safe. I hope you guys are not freezing to death. And if you are, then what the fuck are you doing in stream? Go and like use that generator to, you know, keep yourself warm. Don't use it. Don't waste electricity on me. So today is a rescheduling because I was not feeling well on Friday. So we are going to be doing a continuation of the two-parter for I think my husband is a fucking fish person. No. Stay here and let her warm voice warm you up or something. My warm voice? Are you kidding me? Nah, fam. Anyway, we are going to be finishing up. I think my husband is a fucking fish person. Yes, fee. So let's get started, shall we? Let's go. Okay, so for those who don't remember, part one, go ahead and go over to the VOD because I do have that VOD up on the other channel. I don't remember if I have it linked here on Twitch, but it should be on the Linktree. So if you guys have the Linktree link, then you guys should be able to find it there. I'll double check after stream and I'll fix it if it's not on Twitch. But in the first one, she has noticed some very odd things happening about her husband, including that the scales came back biologically inconclusive. So the last time we left off, he just said, I know you found my scales, Sonia. So let's keep going. Let's keep it going. My fork hit the plate with a loud clank. I slowly finished chewing my bite, swallowed hard, and then uttered, "What?" "Hi, Banana. Hi." Fuck. The scale. The one that stuck to the wall in the bathroom when I flung it. I'd forgotten to pick it up. My throat tightened. I know it must have freaked you out, but they're for a model I've been working on. A model? John, they felt real. Well, thanks, he chuckled, trying to make them as lifelike as possible. I was still extremely skeptical. Why were they in your shaving kit, though? They weren't finished curing, and I didn't want them to get messed up, so I just tucked them into there. It seemed like a strange choice to me, but conceivable, I suppose. John was a very smart man, though sometimes his logic and reasoning on certain things differed drastically from my own. Maybe he thought doing that would protect them from dust particles or something. But I had more questions, and I decided to just go for it now that the lines of communication had been opened. Okay. Well, what about the salt? The salt? He asked, raising an eyebrow. I chose my words carefully. Yes. When I kissed you the other day, your skin tasted salty. Oh, thank you for the follow, Kuro. Thank you. How do you like my follow alert sound? The government would sell your soul to the devil for one corn chip. Yeah, there was. Well, that sounds like a you problem, Belgian, because I heard it just fine. Okay. Well, if you guys didn't hear it, you missed the sound. Okay, well then maybe there's something off with my levels. I'll fix it after stream. But yeah, it's basically the government would sell your soul to Satan for one corn chip. So I thought you'd appreciate that. Continuing. Where was I? There we are. Yes. When I kissed you the other day, your skin tasted salty. And the cinnamon rolls you made, they were covered in salt. I had to throw them all away. He paused, for a moment, took a deep breath, and then looked down at his plate. I sweat a lot, Sonia. You know I've been working out more lately. I got up extra early and went for a run before I made those. God. I'm embarrassed now. So what about last night in bed? Are you going to try and tell me that was just sweat too? My heart flopped in my chest as soon as the words had left my mouth. He looked back up at me, and his eyes softened. Yes. I was having a nightmare. Oh, Sonia, it was awful, and it felt so real. Wait, I don't understand, I said, scrunching my eyebrows at him. Why did you say you were wet from the shower then? Because that's what happened in my dream. I was being drowned in the bathtub by some unseen force. He broke his gaze from me to turn and set his plate down on the coffee table in front of us before continuing. Whatever it was, I couldn't see it. I could only feel it. All I really remember is that I was lying in the bathtub, unable to move, when it held my face down under the shower head. So when I woke up drenched and struggling to breathe, I thought it had really happened. That I'd somehow escaped and reached the bed. I tried to wake you up to help me, but you freaked out. And I was still so disoriented, it didn't hit me that it was just a dream until you said I was scaring you. By then, you were so upset, all I could do was say sorry and go back to sleep on the couch. But that's why I got off work early today. I wanted to make your favorite dish and apologize. Bro's gonna get a Google Docie. No. He reached out his hand and gently grabbed a hold of mine. It all seemed so bizarre, but at the same time just plausible enough to stop me in my tracks and force me to recalibrate. I didn't understand how a person could possibly sweat that much, though. I mean, I know hyperhidrosis is a thing, but I had no idea that it could present to such a degree. Or maybe he actually had started sleepwalking and almost drowned himself. Either way, I felt bad. I realized I'd been so stuck in my own head the whole time. I hadn't even considered how he might have been feeling. Flipping around the perspective, it would actually be me who looked like the irrational one, throwing away the apology cinnamon rolls and crumpling up the note, screaming at him in bed and acting like he was a monster, sneaking around and collecting model fish scales to have them tested. God! No wonder they couldn't be identified. I felt absolutely ridiculous. He went on to tell me he'd just been really stressed about this new project at work. Evidently, it was making him irritable and manifesting itself in other strange ways, too. I accepted his apology and his explanations, then told him I was sorry, too, for how I'd reacted to things. We finished our meal and the episode of Deadliest Catch in silence. Then, John took my plate and told me not to worry about the dishes. He'd have them washed and put away by the time I got out of the shower. Imagine I think my wife is a cat person and you just find hairballs everywhere. I don't know. With how much hair I shed, you'd think that, I was a cat person. The bathroom was spotless. His shaving kit wasn't out, and the tub looked pristine, like it had been scrubbed clean and polished. It looked better than it did when we moved in. I smiled. It seemed like he was truly making a concerted effort to set things right between us. Good question, Harry. Good question. As I exited the bathroom in my robe, he came running down the hallway like a toddler, gleefully shouting, "My turn!" I chuckled and rolled my eyes, then went off to bed to wait for him. He stayed in the bathroom showering for a long time. The sound of running water felt endless. Maybe being illiterate isn't all that bad. True. This is going to end with a shot of the umbrella logo on a document. Belgian. When he finally emerged, he immediately crawled into bed with me and scooted his body close to mine, putting his arm around me and pulling me into an embrace. He was warm again. He felt like John again. I closed my eyes as he leaned in and whispered, "I love you, Sonia." I told him I loved him too. He gently kissed my cheek, then asked, "You wanna spawn?" What the fuck? He just said, "You wanna spawn?" Okay. Okay. Alright. Oh my god. No, Belgian, do not say this to me one day because I guarantee you that will kill any libido that I have. Team, where are we spawning? Good question, girl. Fish beetle. Oh my god. Mods, arrest this man. Wait, damn, he's a mod. Fuck. My eyes popped open and I slowly turned my face to see his big, cheesy smile looming over me. I let out a weak, nervous laugh and he winked. It was just a joke, albeit a poorly timed one, but still on par with John's typical goofy sense of humor, I thought. The tension in my body began to fade away as he started running his hands softly across my skin. We made love passionately that night. It felt the way it did when we had first gotten together. Like all the magic between us was still very much alive. I peacefully drifted off to sleep in his arms with my mind, finally, at ease. Belgian needs to stop. He needs to stop. For a while, it seemed I'd truly gotten him back. The more normal he acted, the more I convinced myself I'd just been overreacting the entire time. No more yelling or violent outbursts. On the contrary, he seemed to be in a great mood all the time. The John from our college years suddenly seemed to resurface. The version that had won me over. He was kind, so affectionate, and more attentive than he'd been in years. It felt like he was courting me all over again. Change some names around, and this is a badly written Gura fanfic. Shush! Silence! Do not the fish! Do not the fish! Because of this, I doubted my own judgment and perception. I swallowed all my suspicions and stopped digging around and asking questions. I ignored the faint scent of putrid decay coming from the bathroom, telling myself it must be an issue with our septic system. I lathered tons of lotion on my increasingly drying skin and chalked it up to winter. But the most foolish thing I did? I allowed my heart to lure my mind into believing the thing I wanted so desperately to be true. The fish is so compact and easy to transport. Chica, no. By the next week, I'd almost forgotten the whole thing. Then, one morning, everything changed. We were at the front door, grabbing our things from the coat closet and getting ready to leave for work. I looked down and caught a glimpse of something odd something that didn't belong, something fishy. Lying just within view, sitting inconspicuously on the sole of his shoe, was a single strand of seaweed. As I quickly inspected it, my heart sank. No, it wasn't one of those dried seaweed snacks they sell at the Asian market. It looked slimy and wet, like it had just been dragged up from the water. Portions of the roots were still attached. I only had about a half second to process this information before he shoved his foot into the loafer. Fuck. Bro, smuggling sushi ingredients from work. He's a marine biologist. Like, they're both marine biologists. That's why I picked, there are many benefits to being a marine biologist as the stream teaser today. He walked me to my car and kissed me goodbye. With clenched teeth, I forced a smile and drove away, looking at him through my rear view mirror. I can speak today. I'm sorry, chat. He stood there in the driveway and watched my car until I began to turn left at the stop sign at the end of our street. As soon as I was out of his sight, I punched hard on the gas. Yeah. When you still love me, if I was a cod. I'm so sorry. See, if he could support her on a single income, she wouldn't care if he's a fish person skinwalker. Maybe, Kuro, maybe. COD VTuber shitpost model time. Call of Duty players very confused and scared. I need a 3D model with good face tracking because I emote hard when reading. So true, bestie. I do need better face tracking. Based on all of the female romance novels in recent rotation. Oh, are you talking about the Dangerous Crow Boy and Plastic Girl? Or are you talking about the Minotaur romance book? A fish model would be. Listen, chat, you know what my dream is? One day to have an Anomalocaris fish VTuber model. I want to be an Anomalocaris. I feel like that is like my spirit animal. I feel like that is what I am meant to be. An Anomalocaris. It's an abnormal shrimp. Oh my god, Belgian needs me to type it in chat. Okay, hang on. Anomalocaris. There we go. Anomalocaris. It literally means abnormal shrimp. It means like strange shrimp. It's a Cambrian era. It's a Cambrian era shrimp. Hang on, Belgian wants me to show you guys Anomalocaris. Belgian wants me to show you guys, so I'm gonna show you guys. Is this thing? Is this guy? It's the abnormal shrimp. Is this the abnormal shrimp? Oh, Belgian wants me to show you the picture that he found. Here you go. Chat, would you still love me if I was a shrimp? Yeah, I would love to have like an Anomalocaris VTuber model. I think it would be funny. What? Oh, Belgian thinks that the pistol shrimp would be a cool VTuber concept. I agree with him on that. Okay, let's continue. We are getting very off track. Yeah, Squid knows what I'm talking about when I say Minotaur romance book. Belgian shush. Kuro, all of it. So true. So true. Thankfully, I don't really read any of that. I'm pretty jazzed about getting the new Dresden Files book that's come out. It should be here on Thursday. I pre-ordered it. Yeah, I need to make sure everything's clean before the book shows up, so that I don't have to do anything, and I can just spend all of my off day on Friday reading if I want. It'll be great. It'll be great, chat. Yeah. Belgian does not look at my schedules. He does not know, chat. Yeah, normally I stream on Friday, but I decided to give myself the day off so that I can enjoy Dresden Files. Belgian wants to stream gacha for you guys. Oh my god. Speaking of gacha, chat, I made this announcement earlier on Twitter, but I'm making it here now. Chat, in honor of Year of the Horse in 22 days, we will be playing Uma Musume together on stream. We will be playing Horse Girls on stream. Huh? Yeah, we're gonna play about a week worth of Uma. Listen, I already liked the anime, so getting into the game is just the next step. But yeah, I hope to see you guys in 22 days for Umas. Anyway, moving on. God damn it, I thought, slamming my hand on top of the steering wheel. Why? Why did I have to see that? Why did it have to be there? Things had finally started to feel normal again, and now this? What the fuck? I drove to work in a silent state of panic, desperately trying to stop myself from spiraling. Will I sing the song? Which one? There's so many songs. Oh, speaking of Uma Musume songs, I have fucking Marvelous Sunday Time stuck in my head. And unfortunately, I don't speak Japanese, so I can't sing it for you guys. Oh my god. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, na 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 na. Thursday, Friday, Saturday is Marvelous Sunday Time. Very awkward because I don't understand Japanese, so I don't know the actual lyrics. I can't tell you guys the actual lyrics. Bye. Hashire, hashire, uma musume. That's the only part I know. That and yeah, chiyo 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 yo. Toki doki 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 doki. Anyway, moving on. We are going to continue the fucking story. I'm sorry, we are getting so off topic. There's a trap remix. Oh god. It sounds like it's up Belgian's alley. Anyway, moving on. It's just a piece of seaweed, I told myself. It meant nothing. He could have been doing field research for the lab. Hell, there could have been several perfectly rational explanations as to how it got in there. I mean, he was a marine biologist, and we lived in Bar Harbor, for Christ's sake. The ocean was 5 minutes from everywhere. It's not like seaweed was an uncommon thing to see around Maine. Oh my god, they're in Maine. Is this gonna turn into a fucking Stephen King novel? Anyway, moving on. With as far as the tides drew back at the bay, it was practically expected. Things between us had been going so perfectly. Better than they'd been in a while, actually. I couldn't let this one little strange sighting ruin all of that. I forced it to the back of my mind and tried to focus on my job. I had a report to finish on fishery management, and my boss was asking for progress updates daily. As the day went on, though, my mind began to wander. During my lunch break, I started Googling. Oh, I know which ones you're talking about. Squid. Yeah, bad ending. Symptoms of psychosis. Hallucinations, delusions, confused and disturbed thoughts. Okay, shit. That sounds like it could possibly apply to me as much as it did to him. If I'm being honest, I wasn't entirely sure what was real and what I'd just been imagining. At that point, the only thing I was sure of was that either John was losing his mind or I was. I can confirm that I was definitely experiencing the confused and disturbed thoughts part, though. Symptoms of a brain tumor, headaches, seizures, changes in mental function, mood, or personality. That last symptom hit a little too close to home. I bit down on my bottom lip and hit the backspace button. Trying to diagnose him using WebMD would be impossible. It would also serve to further my paranoia, which was the last thing I needed at the time. I'd just have to keep watching him to see if any more symptoms appeared. I dug around in my Greek salad, chasing a Kalamata olive with my fork, when a thought came to me. Bye, Squid. Bye. Have a good night. Sleep well. Slap lekker. I typed marine hatchetfish into the search bar. Living in depths of up to 4,000 feet, they looked about how you'd expect. Hideous little things with enormous bulging eyes, a downward turned gaping mouth full of tiny sharp teeth, and a grotesquely misshapen body. I remember thinking how terrifying these creatures would be if they weren't small enough to fit inside a human palm. Okay. Now I'm curious. What the fuck does a hatchetfish look like? Deep sea hatchetfish. Now I'm curious. What does it look like? That's not that bad. It's actually kind of cute. I kind of like it. Oh, this one. I love this photo. He's just like, duh. He looks so silly. Oh, you got ads. Okay, I just dismissed the ads. You mean Funko Pops? Belgian thinks that it looks like a Funko Pop. No. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, God. Oh, excuse me, chat. Sorry. Oh, I sneezed really bad. Okay, no. This picture actually does look kind of terrifying. Okay, I can see where she's coming from if this is the photo that she's looking at. It's kind of scary. I don't like that. But like, they're not that creepy looking. They look fine. They're not that ugly. Trust me, this is not the ugliest fish I think I've ever seen. It's a hatchetfish. It's a deep sea hatchetfish. They're little dudes. They're little guys. I like them. I mean, look at it. It's just a little guy. It's just a little guy. Like literally, it's like the size of a compact. It's tiny. Anyway, getting distracted again. Let's continue. Oh, stop. No. Close that. Living in okay, blah 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 blah. Its scales were silver and reflective, just like John's model scales looked. If John was making a model, why would he choose such an ugly specimen? Let alone one belonging to a genus that wasn't even remotely in his realm of studies. I suppose he could have taken a personal interest in this particular fish, but I still didn't understand why. So I kept reading. There are 7 documented species of silver hatchet fish. Each species differs slightly in size and range, but they all share a few common traits. They feed on prey like small crustaceans, shrimp, and fish larvae, which they hunt by migrating to the surface at night. They utilize their disproportionately large pupils to detect even the faintest traces of light, and like many deep-sea fish, they possess bioluminescence. A set of tiny blue glowing lights emitting from their underbellies act to mimic rippling sunlight, concealing them from predators below. A nifty little evolutionary trick referred to as counter-illumination. Not exactly groundbreaking stuff, but I suppose I could see why John might have taken an interest in them. He'd always been particularly fascinated with bioluminescence, after all. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a biologist who didn't at least agree that it was one of the most amazing natural phenomena to grace our planet. Maybe he was planning to attach tiny LED lights to his model. With it being almost December, maybe he'd been working on this as a Christmas gift for a colleague. Or perhaps even an ornament for our tree, I hoped. I slid my phone into my pocket and went back to work, determined to finish my report. At the very least, I needed to complete the first draft of it. I couldn't afford to let myself go overboard with obsessive thoughts over what was going on in John's mind. I had my own career to focus on. My own damn life to live, too, you know? I was able to power through the conclusion of my report by the end of that afternoon. Not my best work, I'll admit, but it was something to show my boss the next day. John's vehicle was already in the driveway when I got home. I glanced over and noticed that the gate to the backyard was open and the hose was trailing around the corner of the house from the front spigot. But I didn't think much of it at that moment. I walked inside and saw his field bag laying on the floor in front of the coat closet. None of the lights had been turned on and the TV was off. John? No answer. I set my bag down on the floor next to his, then made my way into the kitchen. His keys and pocket change were sitting atop the island, but other than that, the room was exactly as we'd left it that morning. I thought back to the hose. Maybe he's gardening out in the backyard? Wait, mid-November? No, Sonia, get it together. My persistent urge to explain away odd behaviors in order to maintain the status quo had begun to seriously damage my inductive reasoning skills. My search for him had to be put on pause, however, at the request of my bladder. I shuffled to the bathroom, flipped on the light, and hurried to the toilet to relieve myself. I flushed, washed my hands, then shut off the faucet. When I did, I could suddenly hear a drip coming from the bathtub. But it wasn't the plop sound that water makes when it hits a dry surface. It was the plunk, plunk, plunk you hear when it's dripping into more water below. My blood ran cold, and my hand began to tremble as I slowly reached out toward the shower curtain. I quickly forced in a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Then I ripped the curtain back. There was John. He was just lying there, fully submerged and motionless, eyes closed and arms folded across his chest. Large chunks of ice floated in the water surrounding his body. My heart stopped. I fell to my knees, screamed his name, and threw my arms out to grab him from the water. Then his eyes popped open. He's a cyberpunk netrunner. Elgin plays. His pupils were two enormous pools of blackness, covering almost the entire diameter of his iris. For a second, I froze. He was looking at me so intensely that it felt like his gaze directly pierced into the depths of my soul. Then he blinked, releasing me from his trance. I fell backward and immediately started scrambling to secure a foothold on the fuzzy mat beneath me. As I tried desperately to stand back up, John's body began to slowly rise from the water. He then turned his face to look at me, and the corners of his mouth started to recede into a smile. Before he uttered, "Hey, Sonia, did I scare you?" I blinked a few times, mouth hanging open like a bass, completely dumbfounded by the audacity of this question. I took a few seconds to catch my breath while I stared at him. Then, the visceral reaction I'd internalized suddenly bubbled over and erupted to the surface. Chat, would you still love me if I had void eyes while spitting fish folk magic? John! I shrieked, and my voice began to break. I thought you were fucking dead! He laughed. Oh, wow, Sonia, that's dramatic. I'm just doing a cold plunge. I rose to my feet, still in shock, and trying to choke back the tears that had begun to flood my eyes. What? He stepped out of the tub and began toweling himself off. Cold plunge! Howard from work told me it would help me go harder on my workouts. It actually feels great. You should try it, he said. Fully clothed? Well, yeah, Sonia, that's how you do it. Don't get naked like it's a regular bath, he giggled. Belgian says this dude is such a gaslighter, and I'm inclined to agree. I'm kind of inclined to agree. He is like gaslighting her hard, Jet. I just stood there, staring at him blankly. John watches Joe Rogan. Clearly. I just stood there, staring at him blankly with that stupid smile left his face. Are you okay? He finally asked. Jeez, I had no idea it would actually frighten you. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if I believed him or not. But that wasn't my focus at the time. There was an intense rage simmering inside of me. I wanted to scream and cry and beat my fists against his chest. How could he be so dismissive, so callous? But I knew at that moment, trying to convey those feelings to him would do no good. Neither would it be to continue to question him. It It's fine, I said. It most certainly was not fine, but I didn't want him to think otherwise. The panic hadn't yet left my body, and with it came a type of calculated behavior I can only attribute to pure survival instinct. I allowed him to think I'd gotten over it and started dinner. It was a Tuesday, so I was making tacos. Taco Tuesday, let's go. Cliche, I know, but it was just one of my things. After he dried himself off and changed clothes, he came into the kitchen and sat down at the island. I didn't turn around to look at him. I just kept stirring the ground beef in the pan. You know, he said, I've been craving seafood lately. I froze in place, gripping tightly onto the wooden spoon. Maybe next Tuesday we can have fish tacos, or later this week we could try shrimp scampi, he continued. It took everything in me not to react. But I resumed stirring and replied, yeah, sure, that sounds good. I can look up some recipes. Cannibalism in my fish fanfic? More likely than you think. Yeah, Taco Tuesday, let's go. The Kosh. The Kosh. John had never asked for seafood before. He'd eat it if offered, but it was never one of his favorites. Was he testing me? If so, I hoped I'd passed. We ate, watched TV, and then I went to the bathroom to shower. This was my chance. I turned on the faucet in the bathtub. I locked the door and then went straight for his shaving kit on the counter. My heart was pounding out of my chest as I unzipped the kit, being extremely careful not to disturb whatever contents were concealed inside. And yes, I found exactly what I'd feared I'd find. More scales. A lot of them. Silvery, delicate, but this time dried. And horrifyingly, they were speckled with tiny red drops of what looked like blood. I leaned in closer and pulled out my phone to start taking pictures. Bro is selling fish tea to China. When I zoomed in, I noticed that attached to the inner edge of each scale was a half ring of beige-colored tissue. Flesh. It was human flesh. Motherfucker! I dropped my phone and gripped the counter to steady myself. The room was already spinning. I had to keep breathing. I had to move. I had to turn off the water. I ran over to the bathtub and shut it off right before it overflowed. Dark spots began to appear in my line of vision, and the blood drained from my face as an overwhelming wave of dizziness swept over my body. Fearing I was going to pass out, I lowered myself down onto the floor beside the tub and focused on the ripples in the water, trying to ground myself. The mystery white sediment had come back, lining every corner and crack of the tub. Little chunks of it were floating all over the surface. What the hell? How could it have come back so quickly and so much? I reached out and plucked the nearest chunk from the water. It was soft and started to crumble at the edges. Then, without thinking, I lifted it to my mouth and tasted it. Salt. My world felt as if it were closing in on me. It didn't matter how many times my mind repeated the word no. The facts remained. I couldn't wish this away. I felt broken and completely lost. There was nothing I could do except try to go through the motions of the rest of the night. I bathed, got dressed, went to bed, and pretended to be asleep. It took about an hour for him to crawl into bed next to me. Then another to confirm he was sleeping. As soon as he started snoring, I rolled over in bed to face him, then lifted the covers and looked down at his body. I need to check, I thought. Holding my breath, I reached out and gently lifted the back of his shirt, disrupting his breathing pattern and causing him to shift slightly. I let go, but scooted closer. Being caught inspecting his body that way would throw up alarms that I was onto him, but using my hands to do it under the ruse of cuddling wouldn't, I thought. I put my arm around him, resting it on his side. He didn't react, so I slid my hand underneath his shirt and slowly moved it around his back, searching for any anomaly. His skin was cold again, ice cold and clammy, almost rubbery. Other than that, I didn't feel anything else that strange, so I slowly moved down to his hip. When I got there, I froze. Something instantly felt wrong. Like, very wrong. His pelvic bone seemed to have somehow shifted from its natural upright position to tilting downward. My eyes widened, but I slowly resumed my inspection. As I began to run my fingers under the line of his boxers in disbelief, something hard and sharp protruding from his tailbone pricked the tip of my index finger. I ripped my hand away and instantly brought it to my mouth to stop the bleeding. When I did, my finger tasted like brine. I quickly turned back over to face my alarm clock. That night, as I lay in bed next to him, I didn't sleep. Instead, I resumed my endless loop of thoughts. And in those thoughts, I finally stumbled upon a tiny speck of clarity, drifting within a sea of confusion. I couldn't continue to live in this fantasy land, pretending everything was perfect no matter how much I wanted to. What I needed was to be logical. I needed to look at this from a scientific perspective. Step 1. Form a theory. I think my husband is a fucking fish person. Step 2. Collect evidence in hopes of disproving said theory. They drop the title, roll credits. At exactly 4:44 a.m., John stopped snoring, I shut my eyes tightly and waited as he got up and went to the bathroom. He spent about 20 minutes in there doing God knows what, then immediately left the house. When I heard his engine start out front, I shot up and ran to the window. Then I watched his headlights trail down the street until he got to the stop sign. He didn't take a left to town. Instead, he took a right, headed toward the ocean. I ran to the front door, grabbed my keys and a coat, and then shoved my feet into the first pair of shoes I could find. The harsh, cold night air hit me like a steamship, nearly knocking me over. I pulled the hood up over my head and scurried to my car, then tore down Hancock Street after him. A rush of adrenaline began surging through my body as I got closer and closer to the coast. Squinting through the darkness of the deserted street, I looked around in all directions, frantically trying to locate his vehicle. Then, I spotted it parked just outside the house of a local artist. The shore path ahead was closed for the winter, so I turned down Devilstone Way, made a U-turn to face the end of the road, and cut my lights off. Although the thought crossed my mind, my gut told me that he wasn't inside that house. I got out of my car, leaving it running, and started walking towards the bay. I ducked down under the large beach closed sign and continued until I was a few feet away from the rocky coastline. And there he was. The dark silhouette of my husband, standing still at the water's edge, staring directly out into the abyss, and completely nude. Lady, just accept he's a fish man, but the D's still good apparently. Belgian. Listen, I would be kind of horrified if you were a fish person too. Just because, like, bro, what the fuck? Fish people are real? You mean it wasn't... Oh yeah, I'd be turning Belgian being a fish person into content like that, man. My heart began thrashing against my chest like a fish caught in a net. On his lower back, a small, spiny dorsal fin glimmered in the moonlight. His legs were completely covered in fish scales, from the knees down. Then he began to turn his body in my direction, revealing the full extent of his pelvic deformity. I quickly lowered myself behind a large rock and watched in horror through the fog as he turned back around and slowly began walking straight into the fucking ocean. Belgian turns the bathtub into his tank. Nah, fam. Nah. We have a kiddie pool for that. We got a big old kiddie pool for that. I stood there, paralyzed with terror as his head slowly sunk below the surface. Only a few breathless moments passed before he suddenly breached while biting down hard on a lobster. It thrashed and squirmed within the confines of his jaws until he'd separated the tail from the body. Holy fuck. My mind was unable to process what I was truly witnessing. Okay, what if you were actually a werewolf, but chill? You're talking to the girl that is totally cool with eldritch abominations in dating sims. I don't think I would care. Instinct took over and my hand shot up, covering my mouth to stifle my scream. I turned around and ran full speed back to my car. I didn't look behind me. I was too afraid. I just kept running and praying to God that he hadn't seen me. I threw the car in drive and booked it home, knowing he would be making his way back there any minute now, that he'd had his breakfast. I gagged, but I didn't have the time to be squeamish. The clock was ticking. I had to come up with a plan, and fast. Shit, why couldn't I have married a nice, boring accountant? When I got back inside the house, I slammed the door shut and looked down at John's field bag sitting on the floor next to the coat closet. I knew I had seconds to spare, so I went straight for the side pocket where I know he kept his flash drives. It was the only chance I had to find out exactly what I was dealing with here. I reached inside and dug around. My fingers met one just as I heard the brakes of his Jeep Wrangler squeal. I grabbed the drive and hurried on to the bedroom, jumping into bed and throwing the covers over myself. The front door latched closed, and I struggled to slow my breathing to an even, steady pace. I couldn't even begin to tell you the horrific thoughts that crossed my mind as I lay there, helpless. Just how far would he go to protect this secret from me? I listened to the noise of his wet feet, plap, plap, around the house, using it to track his every movement like sonar. He never entered the bedroom, though. Just went through his normal morning routine, whatever that meant, and left for work. I didn't know if he'd seen me. Hell, a part of me didn't even care. Things couldn't continue this way. After what I'd just seen, it was impossible. Yet somehow, John had been able to quickly conjure up an excuse for every outlandish behavior he'd displayed thus far. He'd probably tell me I must have been dreaming or something. Confronting him using only words wasn't an option. I needed irrefutable evidence, even more than I'd already collected. I called my boss, telling him I was sick and that I wouldn't be able to make it into work. He'd just have to wait one more day for that report. I had bigger fish to fry. I see what you did there. I grabbed the laptop from my field bag and sat down at the island, booting it up and inserting the flash drive with shaking hands. I hesitated for a moment before opening the file. Did I really want to know the truth? Was I truly ready to open this can of worms? I knew that from this point on, there was no going back. I inhaled, slowly and deeply, then clicked. The top of the page read, MDI Biological Laboratory, pioneering new approaches in regenerative medicine. Fuck. Jessica was right. Should I call her? No, I can't. She made it clear she didn't want to be involved. I was on my own with this. With bated breath, I scrolled on. What followed was a wall of text filled with scientific jargon. I'll spare you the complicated details and summarize the best I can in layman's terms. Researchers were able to create synthetic bioluminescence systems by modifying a specific enzyme called luciferase, using a process known as directed evolution. This allowed for use in various applications, including the deep organs and tissues of other living animals. Yes, You did read that correctly. There are more than 40 known bioluminescent systems in the natural world, but only 11 of them have been able to be recreated and utilized by scientists with this specific technology. A new research project was formed in hopes of discovering how to manipulate and synthesize other bioluminescent systems, including those containing aquiorin, the photoprotein responsible for creating blue light. Oh, my fucking God. I slammed the laptop shut. It all made sense. The clammy skin, the salt everywhere, the cold plunges, the lobster. Christ, all of it! Son of a bitch! I wondered what else I'd missed and started tearing the house apart looking for more evidence. I'm well aware that I already collected more than enough in support of my theory. What I was looking for, secretly wishing for, was anything that might prove me wrong. Instead, I found more dried up fish scales tucked away in various drawers from all over the house. I found salt lining the corners of the floors and crusting to the edges of the baseboards. In the bathroom trash can were several shrimp heads hidden underneath wads of slimy toilet paper. I remembered the hose and went out to the backyard to see what he'd been doing. A giant hole had been dug in the middle of our yard and filled with water, creating an enormous mud pit that spanned almost the entire length of the fence. How did you not fucking notice the giant pit, lady? Yeah, where'd the dirt go? Belgian is asking the real questions here. Like, when did he have time to do this? How did she not notice this? Like, I have so many questions. So many questions. I think this woman is just chronically she is chronically unobservant, is what I'm thinking. A dozen or so empty bags of aquarium salt lay discarded on the grass beside it. Oh yeah, then you're not getting your yard back after that. No fucking way. I dropped down to the ground, my knees hitting the cold, soggy grass at the same time my heart did. I knew. I knew with every fiber of my being, but I still needed to hear him say it. It was the only way I'd have any chance of helping him. I was convinced that this had to have been some sort of horrible accident. Babe, do you want to see my fish eggs? Shut up. Shut up, Belgian. He must have gotten involved with the sketchy research somehow, and maybe he'd cut himself while handling some of the genetic material. If I could just find a way to force him into telling me what had happened. If I could back him into a corner to where he could no longer deny it, then maybe together we could try to reverse whatever was going on with his body. Or at the very least, stop it from getting any worse, I hoped. I walked inside the house, sat down at the laptop, and went back to the very first thing I'd researched when all of this crazy shit started. Hatchet fish. And then, with about 4 hours until he arrived back home from work, I formed a hypothesis and devised a plan. Tuna. One of the top predators in the ocean. An unsuspecting killer lurking in the depths of the Atlantic. The local seafood market had it on sale that week. Freshly cut tuna steaks for $10.99 per pound. You were wondering who was going to make spawning reference? It ended up being Belgian. Belgian does that. That is what Belgian does. I I drove into town and purchased 2 large steaks, along with the ingredients needed to make a lemon caper sauce. Then I sped back home with my thoughts racing. I needed once and for all to expose him for the fish man I knew he was. To provoke a response so extreme, so undeniable, it would be impossible for him to hide or explain away. I didn't care anymore about how he might react. I was prepared to do whatever I had to do to save my husband. I looked down at my watch. 3:41 p.m. Belgian, please, no. Yeah, it is a good deal. This is a really good deal for tuna steaks. A little more than an hour left. Food would take almost no time at all to prepare, so I used the remaining moments I had alone to go through our wedding album. I sat down on the couch with tears forming behind my eyes as I reflected on how happy that day was for us. Best day of our lives. The last 5 years with him had truly been so perfect. I couldn't understand why, or even how it had all gone so wrong so quickly. All I knew was that I had to try to fix this. I had to get John back. Yo, tuna makes a really good fish taco. I'm just saying, chat. Just saying. I sank down into the cushions and began hugging the throw pillow beside me. Suddenly, my phone vibrated, jolting me back into an upright position. Headed home. Go time. I shut the photo album, wiped my eyes, and then made my way back to the kitchen. I started on sauce first, throwing it together in about 10 minutes, and remembering to set aside a few lemon wedges to use as garnish. Then I started searing the tuna. 1.5 minutes on each side. I set 2 plates out on the island and took in a deep breath as I heard him pull into the driveway. My entire body was shaking, but I knew I had to try and stay calm. I couldn't risk spooking him before he was in position. Hey, he said with a confused smile as he entered the kitchen. Standing strategically in front of the pan on the stove, I replied, Hey, John. I've got a surprise for dinner tonight. He sat down and sniffed at the air intensely. Then he stopped, and the smile slowly faded from his face. His Adam's apple bounced upward as he swallowed hard, and his pupils began to dilate. What is it? He asked nervously. I grabbed the pan from the stove and quickly plopped one of the steaks down onto the plate in front of him. Tuna, I said. Sorry, I need to scratch my ear. Okay. He looked down at it, and his eyes widened. As I began to pour the sauce over his steak, his nostrils flared, and he began breathing heavily. I squeezed a bit of juice from the lemon wedge around his plate, but I was so focused on watching him for a reaction that I accidentally squirted a droplet into his eye. How do you accidentally squirt lemon juice into another person's eye like that? Like, if you have it pointed towards the plate, it's not likely to go up. A simple misclick. I guess. He didn't flinch. Instead, 2 vertical-facing inner eyelids quickly slid from each corner, meeting in the middle with a squish. My mouth fell open and I gasped. I dropped the wedge and ripped my hand away, but before I could even fully react to that horror, another began to unfold in front of me. On his stomach, underneath his button-up Hawaiian shirt, a set of 6 tiny blue lights began to glow. I jumped backward, tripping on the bar stool next to me and hitting the ground hard. I quickly scrambled back up to my feet, then I pointed my finger at John and screamed, "I fucking knew it!" His expression remained neutral as he looked down at his glowing belly, then back up at me. I'd finally caught him. No way he was going to be able to wriggle his way off this hook. There was nothing he could say, nothing he could do. Now, he'd have to admit to me what was truly going on. Sonia, I'm dying. Belgian. Belgian cannot believe. Those 3 words snatched the wind right out of my sails. It couldn't be real. My chest tightened and my arm dropped back down to my side. The room filled with a stifling thickness as he looked up at me with dread. What? He hung his head low as he slowly pushed the plate away from himself and whispered, "I thought I had more time, but nothing I've tried has worked." "John, I don't understand. Tell me what happened to you," I demanded. He took in a deep breath, tapped his finger on the island a few times, and then began to speak. Back when all this started, I honestly never thought it would go this far. At first, it was just a joke. Howard dared me to do it. Stupid. I know. He forced out a nervous laugh. Then his leg began bouncing up and down as I stared on in silence. His head rose, his lips beginning to quiver. He looked me straight in the eyes and continued. During the first few weeks, I quickly realized that some of the changes were, well, more than I'd bargained for, to say the least. Sonia, I swear, I tried to stop it. I tried to fix it, but I don't know. I just couldn't keep myself from going back. I started to like it. John, are you telling me you did this to yourself? On purpose? A single black tear escaped from his eye, trailing down the side of his cheek. "I didn't know what would happen," he said, his voice trembling with shame. "Well, it stops now!" I screamed. He slowly stood up from the bar stool and placed his icy cold hand on my shoulder. While looking deep into my eyes, he said, "It's too late." "John, no, please. We have to tell someone. We have to at least try to get you help," I begged. He shook his head, his face sullen and streaked with more black stains. "The dolphins make it taste better, Chica. I've taken too many doses. The effects are irreversible at this point. I've been trying to do everything I can to make living on land more comfortable for myself, so I could stay here with you. But no matter what I do, it's becoming increasingly unbearable by the minute. I'm so sorry, Sonia. I wanted to tell you, I really did, but I just couldn't. I'm so ashamed. I don't even know who I am or what I am anymore. Please, please forgive me." At that moment, the earth stopped spinning. All sound escaped from the room, and I was left only with the deafening thud of my heartbeat flooding my ears. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't cry. I just stood there, frozen and hollow. As all the pieces of this puzzle finally snapped into place and my entire world crumbled around me. My knees buckled, and I fell forward into his arms. Somehow, I allowed myself to forgive him for what he had done to himself, for committing this act of betrayal that cut so deeply. He hadn't done it to hurt me. His curiosity had gotten the better of him. That was just John. We embraced each other tightly for a few minutes before I was able to finally work up the courage to ask him, "What do we do now?" The answer was simple, but far from easy. In fact, it would be the hardest thing I'd ever have to do in my life for many reasons, and I didn't know if I had the heart to bear it. This choice would be one of the most devastating decisions a person could be asked to make. And yet, I agreed. I'm at the cove now, watching the dark waves violently crash against the rocks, letting the cold breeze sweep across my face as the sun sets on the horizon. I'm going to end this by saying, I love my husband. I truly do. I'll try to come back here to visit him whenever I can. But I cannot watch him slowly die in our house. I can't be selfish like that. It isn't about what I want. It's about what he needs. And I know deep down in my heart, the right thing to do for him is to let him go. My job was to preserve and protect coastal ecosystems. But today, instead of a report, I'll be handing in my resignation. To anyone reading this, I'm so sorry. The truth is, I have no idea what I've just released into that water and unleashed onto the world. And that's the end. That's the end of it, chat. Camera zooms out, umbrella logo. That is ridiculous. Bro just wanted to swim. Yeah, in the end, he wasn't some secret fish person. He's just some dude taking something that turns him into a fish. True, true, true. It's ironic that OP apologizes to the reader. Good read. Yeah, yeah. Kind of weak end. I would have preferred like some conspiracy and not haha dude wanted to be fish. I mean, he didn't really want to be a fish. He just like, well, he knew what was happening, but like he didn't realize that it would do that is the thing. He was taking whatever they were synthesizing like just to see what would happen, and he didn't realize that it would end up like that. But yeah, so I want to thank everybody for showing up. I am way over my normal time. Well, actually, no, I'm like 30 minutes behind when I normally would stop. So I am going to go ahead and head out. I want to thank you guys for showing up. I want to thank you guys for sticking around for this live reading. I have much, much more planned for the upcoming week. Tomorrow we're going to be doing some more Online Obsession, the horror visual novel. Then Thursday we are going to be doing a live watch party of when your house is haunted but rent is cheap. So we're getting back into the analog horror the analog horror watch parties. Thank you for the biddies, Harry. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for showing up. I love you guys within your world here. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. So I am gonna be heading out. Bye 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 bye.